everybody. Welcome. Today's podcast is the Energy News Beat, and I am Stu Turley, President and CEO of the Sandstone Group. And I just have such a great time with my favorite Canadians. We have Heidi Killip, and I mean, she is the movie mogulist, is her title. She is the director of A Stranded Nation and is the CEO of ASN Productions. How are you today, Heidi?
I'm doing wonderful now that I'm here, Stu.
Yeah, I'll tell you, we are ready for some fun. We were hoping you were going to be late so that Terry and I could kind of pick on you. So, it's a good thing you showed up.
I showed up on time. I was punctual today for you boys.
Okay, and the next one we have on our little thing here is Terry Edom. You are the author of my favorite book, The End of Fossil Fuel Insanity, and I still have to show this every time. I am the greatest podcast host ever, thanks to you. Now, I'm going to just brutalize you for a second, Terry. All right. Lean in and show your cleavage. For all those that are our podcast listeners, he's leaning in, and it's got a green donkey on it, and it says kick ass. So it's got a green donkey and kick ass. And I don't know. I'm from Texas and Oklahoma, and I said, "Are you kicking green ass?" I didn't know. What does that mean?
I didn't realize what a hornet's nest I was going to stir up with my T-shirt. I get dressed in the dark, and I grab the top of the pile. So this is what it was.
Oh, I like it. So kicking green ass, politically wrong, and we call you affectionately grumpy. And I'm the idiot. So this is the Snow White and the grumpy and the idiot. So my last
name. You guys are selling yourself shorts here. Exactly. You guys are much more educated than that.
Oh. Yeah. Well, wait till you see. I got my teeth knocked out playing hockey, so you ought to see that one for a real fun interview. Okay, some of the things that we've had on our shows has always been the Canadian-U.S. relationship, and we're having so much fun picking on President Biden. I mean, no, we're talking about and Trudeau. You gotta love these guys. What planet did they start having meetings in?
Yeah, Heidi, you can tackle that one first if you want. You pay more attention to politics.
It's a nice light topic to start off. I mean, it's fine. No big deal. I don't know where to even start with that. I mean, I think we all kind of are questioning the relationship with Trudeau and Biden, and certainly, I don't know if they're working well together. I don't know if they're competing. I don't know what the general vision is for both our countries, but it's certainly unclear of what their platforms really are about and what their alternative motives are. Because one day in the news, they'll be fickle, like especially with Trudeau, he'll come out here out west and be in Alberta and say, oh yeah, we obviously need Canadian oil and gas, and then goes back to Ottawa and has a completely different sounding board and a different dialogue about phasing out oil and gas and that it's not going to be around for much longer. So the tones are quite different wherever he is. And I think that's really kind of part of his platform as a whole, is that he tends to really fluctuate on his direction in his leadership, depending on where he is.
Did you just call Trudeau a politician?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, they're like very, very, and I think we've talked about this before, but one of my things that is so annoying is that the severance between Eastern Canada and Western Canada is that severance is a huge part of our nation. Right. And to go up and say comments that, people that aren't vaccinated in Canada are misogynistic, they're basically the poorest of the lowest of humankind in our society, is really, really disturbing to me, because you're isolating people. And I think anytime you start isolating groups of people as a leader, you become very, very misogynistic yourself. So these are really cues that we need to be very aware of going forward. And it's not just oil and gas, it's a lot of division politics happening. And oil and gas just seems to be, the front runner right now of this non-need for essential resources.
Terry, just before we started, we were talking about the interrelationship of the cars between Canada and the U.S. I did not know it was that much.
Yeah, and you flagged that in an article you sent around, Stu, about just some of the challenges with the Canada-U.S. relations. Just quickly on Heidi's topic there's the Biden throwing the wrench in the Keystone XL pipeline on his first day, which was a while ago. And Crane, yeah, dropped the piano on it. So it's dead now, and the U.S. needs oil, which is really peculiar considering we have more than enough of it, as does the U.S. If you ask his own producers. But there's other irritants as well, and Heidi mentioned these guys seem to be pretty fickle about their messages depending where they're at, and the same thing goes internationally. We have a auto trade deal with the U.S. It's called the Auto Pact, which came in the 60s or something, where there's sort of a free trade agreement for autos, and then Biden's Build Back Better thing was going to have huge subsidies for cars made in the U.S. So that upset Canada, or upset the power center of Canada, which is like that golden horseshoe, Southern Ontario, Southern Quebec region, where more than half of our population is. So in some ways, the split that Heidi was talking about it's very similar to what you have. You have the states on the coast, which are in their own la la land, and then the real people in the middle, and we have ours centered in Southern Ontario, the equivalent, and maybe on the west coast a little bit too, the people that are disconnected from realities. They just go to the grocery store and they expect everything to be there instantly. Speaking of which, our bonehead prime minister is not allowing unvaccinated truckers to cross the border, which is in the middle of a supply chain crisis. I don't think anyone can think of anything more stupid to do than to block trucks from accessing your country. It's just unfathomable. And I think people are dumbfounded that someone would actually do that, but here we are.
That sounds like something I would do.
No, Stu, you wouldn't do.
No, Stu, no.
Not even with a lobotomy.
Incorrect, Stu.
I'll tell you this is just amazing. And Heidi, I don't know if we were boring you to tears until we made a joke. You were just when Terry was talking, all you heard was clicking because you were looking off, thinking of something else.
Yeah, I was really thinking about what he's exactly right, though. I mean, it's just. I keep thinking about visually these parts of Canada that I've been traveling to quite often since I was a kid. So because I grew up on the East Coast, I was in Ontario every single summer. So I know lots of these small towns, lots of these like Hamilton, which is an auto manufacturing town. And when I was filming A Stranded Nation, I went there actually with my camera, and the doctors were saying how overwhelmed they were because it is one of the highest drug rates in Canada is Hamilton. And if you go there, it's just architecturally stunning. I mean, there's old churches. It's a beautiful, beautiful spot. And it's really, really gone under. And, my heart goes out to people in that community because I met some of them, and I met some of the business owners and folks that, are trying to stay positive for something like that, where the auto manufacturing is a huge part of their income and their economy in their local areas. So it does concern me when politicians play with people's livelihoods and they don't seem to have any kind of care, or I don't know, just if you're going to switch a policy, it's going to affect people. So you really have to have that cause and effect nailed down of, okay, well, maybe we should, put more research into who's getting affected, what kind of support we need to be giving if we're going to change something like that.
Energy policy sounds good for about the first 5 seconds till it gets put into ink. And then once it's inked, nobody realizes who it impacts. Terry, you've grumped about that before when energy policies affect people that they're not even thinking about.
Right. And that's it's become so obvious that people don't understand energy when you see these statements or these fights that people pick. The biggest, oil and natural gas are cross-border elements. They come back and forth. Canada and the U.S. trade back and forth all the time. We have pipelines from Western Canada that carry natural gas and oil into the United States, and there's pipelines in the eastern side of the continent that move product up into Canada, and it's a great relationship. And then you have someone like the governor of Michigan trying to shut down a pipeline that serves her own citizens, and there brings them propane that they need for winter heating fuel and a lot of other things, and it helps Canada too, this pipeline. And it's on an ideological grounds that just reflect that they know nothing about energy. Same as Secretary Granholm, making some comments. She doesn't know how much oil the U.S. produces. She doesn't know anything about the statistics of the one of the biggest, most influential industries under her. She doesn't even know the basics about it. She just wants it gone. So, which is really weird.
You know, Heidi, I just read another article, and since you're the farm expert around here, and you grew up on a farm, and you have the empathy for farm animals. You're the only one that cares about anything on this podcast, and you know it's interesting. I didn't realize the dairy and farming trade between the U.S. and Canada.
Well, it's everything. I mean, this is what we talk about a lot, and we should be talking a little bit more about is our supply chain. We're completely interconnected to the United States. And I'm happy with that because we share a lot of the same values. We share a lot of the same cultural,
Right.
nuances about life. It's whether it's religion or whatever it is, it's really closely tied into the roots of the United States. So I'm super okay with it. But my biggest thing is, we don't have politicians anymore that are very good at standing up for Canada. And I would say vice versa for you guys as well. I mean, there's a happy medium that goes into it. And we have the land space and the land mass as well, and the lower population to really excel in all industries, whether that's maple syrup, which is a huge commodity that's traded around the world. It's massive. You've got tons of things like cattle, you've got dairy, you've got automotive, as we talked about. There's just constant flow between these types of industries and needs for our supply chain. So cultivating that relationship, to me, should be priority, and every other country should be secondary, in my opinion.
One of the things that was also in a different article was saying that to be a farmer now, a farmer was scratching his head, and he said, "I've never sold so much cow poop in all my life." And everybody's trying to get the carbon credits for burning cow poop. And I'm like, cool.
I personally haven't heard about this, but that doesn't surprise me.
That was my article I wrote for the BOE report a couple of days ago. So I think it was the day before yesterday came out. So there's a farmer that was online that said that he's had 25 offers of people trying to buy access to his cow poop because of the method.
Oh, so this is where I read it. I didn't realize it was you.
That was me. Yeah.
Oh, no way.
And it's, I'm kind of dabbling in that field, not the poop field, but the renewable natural gas. You beat me to
that line. I was going to say that. Terry's dabbling in poop again.
That's funny.
Sorry.
So yeah, it's definitely a hobby. But the demand for it is because of the credits that it generates. So you have this very odd. The article was about pricing signals, and it's not my idea. There's a genius out there named Lynn Alden that I highly recommend everyone go read. She has the ability to make complex topics very simple and very rational and logical analysis. It's fantastic stuff. Anyway, so she wrote an article about price signals, and she had a great analogy of a price signal that is, let's say there's a pipeline.
Are you going anywhere with this, Terry?
Yeah, I am. So there's a pipeline break in a community, and there's a shortage of gasoline, and the price will spike, and people will adjust to that locally as the price spikes. Some people will stop using it. The people that really need it will pay what they need, that will pay it because they need it. And supplies will start coming in from other places. There'll be arbitrageurs that will start bringing products in from elsewhere to capture the high price. And then you have a market that works to balance everything again. But governments are messing that up. So you have this extraordinary demand for cow crap because it's built on an artificial government subsidy. You also have extremely high demand for hydrocarbons, but people aren't willing to supply them because they don't see governments allowing them to survive in the long run. So that's part of the issue that our governments need to figure out here too, is that there's this crying demand for a lot of things. The supply chains are getting buggered up. Underpinning all of it is hydrocarbons because that's cheap energy. We're fortunate here in North America. We have the lowest energy prices in the world. Natural gas oil is a pretty tradable commodity, so it's similar to the rest of the world. But our natural gas, which is a feedstock for a lot of industry, is the cheapest in the world, and we don't realize how lucky we are to have that. So
yeah, that's right. And like, as we were talking with farming, it's even the fertilizer, having natural gas and fertilizer. I mean, when we have that supply chain issue, I just don't understand why people don't wake up and say, oh, okay, I wonder why there's a supply chain issue when there's no fertilizer around. Like, when you're talking about food, and that is a necessity to human life, I was actually speaking to some of my girlfriends this weekend because two of them are actually models. So one of them just moved to Toronto, and she's starting to look into European contracts and things like that. And we were chatting about oil and gas, and then also about fashion, because the second largest polluter in terms of industry is actually, I think oil and gas is number one internationally, but it's at least a need. It's a necessity to our function of life. And the second is fashion, if I'm not wrong about those stats. So fashion is the most probably useless thing in terms of our human needs. I mean, having a shirt and buying 40 of them.
My head just exploded.
Why?
We went from energy to fashion as the most important things on the planet.
Well,
I think he took it personally with his outfit today. So
yeah, in terms of pollution, it's actually the second largest. So if you're looking at it in a necessity level, is fashion a necessity? And it's not. So we're not talking about just manufacturing clothes, we're talking about fast fashion. So this is something that, obviously her as a model, she's quite aware of. And she is saying, I shop locally at thrift stores now. Like, I don't go out and buy anything because, there's just such a pollution on the planet with this one thing. So you have to start thinking about it in a global sense. Like, okay, it's just so interesting to me of, when we're having larger conversations about the environment, this has to be at the forefront, is all conversations like that,
like child labor laws or abuse in the Nike tennis shoe factories where they're having child labor and all those kind of things.
Oh, it's huge. Yeah. And there's actually, there's a really good documentary. I'm not sure if it's on Netflix anymore, but it was about fast fashion. And it was really sad because what was happening is all of these places where they were manufacturing, say, T-shirts, and they're producing mass quantities of them. All of their water locally was completely contaminated by chemicals because there wasn't any environmental guidelines like we have in Canada and United States. And it happens in the United States and Canada, but we have the ability to put it on the news, to have documentaries, you have that ability to be transparent and force transparency, I could like to call it, but at least you can still put it out there. But these countries, they don't have the ability to stand up to their government and challenge these types of regulations.
I'm going to ask a totally non-important question, but if you know this with your modeling friends and their fashion statements and stuff, do you know why the tie was invented?
I have no idea, Stu. I have no idea.
It goes back to when shirts actually had metal and they were rusted. So the fashion came in to put some piece of cloth on it. And I'd like to beat the snot out of whoever that was that, first did that. I'm like, you guys are morons. I mean,
that's funny. Oh my gosh, that's wild. I did not know that, Stu.
And then the other one is, why do women's shirts, let's see, men's go left over right, and then women's go the other way?
Yeah.
Okay. Do you know why?
No idea.
Okay. In the old days, when men were men and they weren't like carrying purses and stuff, they carried swords. So when you open your coat up, most people are right-handed and they pull out their sword. We've stuck with those two traditions, and I'm ambidextrous, so I can wear women's clothes. And I can pull my sword out with either hand.
Perfect. Yeah. I love this. You know what? Each month we're on layering something new about you, Stu. So I'm really glad we established you like women's clothes.
Yeah, is it Monty Python when they had the "I'm a lumberjack and I'm okay"? Do you remember that skit? Terry, you don't remember that?
I have seen it. Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to tag that on to the end of this so that the Canadian people will understand I'm a lumberjack and I'm okay. Okay, with that, we're leaving now back to
sidetracked at all.
Do what now?
No, we weren't sidetracked at all.
Oh no, we weren't that. We just went off the rails on that bad dog. Hey, I was sitting there looking at this, and the Canadian sands oil is a heavy mix of oil that we need badly. And that's a mess up. And you can't use that land for anything other than a tar pit for pulling in dinosaurs, right?
The oil sands. Well, the oil sands actually cover 140,000 square kilometers, which is an enormous, absolutely enormous area. A lot of it is near surface, and there's a lot of the soil around there is contaminated with oil. Literally, there's stunted trees. There's it's right below the surface. It percolates up to the surface. I mentioned once, not just I, but a lot of other people have said that the oil sands is actually the world's biggest cleanup operation, and people just get livid when you say that, but it's not untrue. There's a lot of oil that's laying there at surface, and when a oil sands operation comes through and takes the oil out and reclaims the site, it's cleaner than it was before they were there. So
no way.
It's absolutely correct. Yeah. And there used to be animals. There's actually a lot of indigenous communities that were saying how animals were getting stuck in the oil. They were dying. Like, as exactly what Terry mentioned, is that all the trees, the vegetation would die because there was just too much of it that was coming to the surface.
Well, ASN Productions, who I know the movie mogulus owner of ASN Productions, ought to do a documentary.
Oh, I know. Isn't that ironic that that's already in my head? It's already in my works of topics I'll be tackling.
Oh, no way. It's so sad that all the animals are trying to imitate dinosaurs and die off and become oil, by jumping in the oil up there. And it's the cleanest ESG. We need a new marketing scheme for Canada. We're ESG by cleaning up the tar pits.
True. Yeah. It's laying there in the ground. They're taking it out. What do you call that?
Thanks to our very friendly Sierra Club down in the States, they've done a very good job at campaigning against Canada oil sands. So thanks to you guys.
Yeah.
We've got a lot of work to rehash out, and that's a huge challenge. When something's already in the public mind, it's very, very, very difficult to unlearn something that's been over 2 decades, basically, of working against a specific industry. That's a lot of information that's getting pumped out. And as we talked about a million times before in oil and gas, is all you have to show is, a duck spill and you cleaning off a duck of oil, it's all over its feathers, and put that all over the news.
You're saying a real duck. I didn't know that you were talking about a real duck. I thought a new duck was
you see a duck all the time and they get stuck in an oil spill, and the poor little things can't and it's sad. It like an otter or something.
Yeah.
It's devastating. It hurts my little heart. So I'm like, I'm one of those people, I get wrapped up in that stuff where I used to. And then I'm like, now I'm like, okay, well.
Okay, Heidi, a duck in the oil and gas industry is a drilled but uncompleted well. And over here, you were trying to hug a drilled but uncompleted well, and you're talking about a little ducky.
What? It's like it could be both things. It's okay. It's my 2 meanings.
Trans duck.
A cross-dressing duck. What was that?
I meant like a real duck with feathers.
Oh, okay.
The cute duck.
Okay, we are going to get banned on YouTube on this.
Oh
one.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah,
we're between the green ass kicking and everything else. We are toast now. But at least we don't drop an F-bomb. If we drop an F-bomb, it drives my production people nuts. So, Heidi, you still hold the record. No, I'm the biggest idiot on this thing, but Heidi's the one with a foul mouth. So.
It's the East Coaster in me. We're like pirates,
I'm surprised you didn't do 2 snaps and another one. That was another movie that was a great one that we'll leave alone. Okay. I just had a senior moment.
Are you a senior, Stu? I didn't know you were a senior.
I'm sure that's
thank you. I'll send you a check later. But when you sit back and think, guys, how do we solve this? Because we all know we don't mind going greener, as they say, because we do need to go to carbon net emission 0. We need to get the lowest kilowatt per hour to folks. What are the next step? What do? We can't just grump at each other and make jokes about people, even though we need to.
Yeah, Terry, you
Well,
go first. I want to hear
oh,
your
sure.
crack at this one.
Well, I don't really know the answer to that. There's the parties are so entrenched in what they believe, and they've come out so strongly. I mean, the climate, the people that are terrified about a changing climate are terrified about a changing climate. They're really lose sleep at night. They think we're all going to die if the temperature rises and we don't stop emissions. And the part that leaves me kind of stumped is the fact that the world doesn't care. There's a elite Western slice of society that really does care, but there's 5 billion people on the other side of the world that don't. They want a better standard of living. They want to grow to live like we do. They care about emissions too, but first and foremost, they care about improving their standard of living. That's the reality of it to me. So I think that we're going to come to some sort of if there had been a price mechanism driving this whole thing. So let's say the price of oil went to $200 a barrel and stayed there. You would see all sorts of people voluntarily dumping their SUVs. They wouldn't fly as much. They would think about what they do. If we had to pay for that, and that's why people like a carbon tax, because it does drive the cost up. But it should be done because of scarcity, true scarcity. If there's something that's really scarce, then it's precious, and you should treat it as such. Oil and gas aren't scarce; they're available. We just choose not to produce them, or we disincentivize people to produce them, and most of the world wants them. So I think that we have to find an equilibrium there. There's this huge push with Greta and the army of kids that were saying we have to get off fossil fuels. And then the world reality is pushing back and saying, forget it, we want to live. And so that's where it's heading now. I think we're heading in the other direction, where you see record coal consumption in Europe and rising coal consumption in the US, record coal consumption in China. That's the reality of it. So I think the way that this gets resolved is we have to find an equilibrium here where prices are higher, and then there's an actual true incentive that people will care about. You can't shame people into it, and you can't guilt people into it, and you can't scare them into changing their ways. You can't tell someone you have to quit driving your nice big vehicle because the earth might warm up in 50 years. They'll go, I don't care. I'm going to get groceries. And I'm going to Mexico for my holiday, and I'm doing whatever. That's just how the world works. And people, I think, will come to that conclusion. But I do think we are moving towards the greener aspect of it for sure. And if it's done for economic reasons, because the price of the commodities is too high, then I think we'll find an equilibrium where it all works for everybody, and we'll live with less. Maybe we live without changing our fashions every season, like the season's new colors everybody throws out last season's, and maybe we'll stop doing things like that once if the price of clothing goes to what it should be.
You're taking a shot at Heidi's friends. I mean, they're not even here to defend themselves. I would not want to take on a couple models. I mean, that would be awful.
But that's why they're so awesome, though, is because when we were talking, like, they don't participate in fast fashion. Like, this is one of the things that is really core to their values as a millennial, is that, and I do the same. Like, I mostly shop at thrift stores. So, like, these are really important concepts that a lot of people are trying to do to lower their environmental impact, and they're making those choices. And because we have to live with that choice as a millennial, and Jen said, it's been part of our culture for as long as we were kids. So it's so interesting to hear what people are really passionate about, young people. And that tends to be the reoccurring issue, is like, how do we connect the supply chain and economy with oil and gas, making that relationship again to those people that are really passionate about making change. So it's challenging. There's definitely a disconnect there. We were playing a card game, and it's called Cards Against Humanity. I don't know if you guys have ever played that before.
I've heard it. Yes.
Okay. So there was a card that I got, and it was crazy. The card said "Dirty Alberta Oil and Gas." That was one of the cards. And I stopped and I was like, what? Like, how is this, like, this is an American card game? And that was one of the things that was on the card. So you can just imagine how deeply this marketing campaign has gone against Alberta oil and gas. And it's really, really disturbing, because it's like, okay, that is no longer, it's part of pop culture. It's now in a card game, and people are thinking that that's normal. So when they wake up, they're like, yeah, it's Alberta dirty oil and gas.
Wow.
And that is fascinating to me. So when we talk about, again, it's relatability in this marketing relationship, between
Yeah.
millennials and Gen Z. I mean, people are just horrible in oil and gas at communicating to my generation. It's just, it's overwhelming sometimes of how poor it is, you know, shoving LNG facts at people or talking about like this old concept. It's like, what? Like, it doesn't mean
And
anything to my friends or, you know, people that I know here. So that's really the driving point for me, is that there has to be more of a unity in their marketing side collectively for oil and gas companies. And Alberta has, sometimes they lose wind in their fight because they're so overwhelmed by how daunting of a task this really is. And then there's some companies that are eager to constantly be in the game and be in the loop. So it's really about bridging all of them together, making sure that they don't give up on themselves.
you know, there's a couple companies out there that have done some great commercials explaining. I believe I know one of them that have done great commercials talking about the importance of oil. You know, I don't know who that is, Heidi, but there's also another one that I just saw, and that was Energy Transfer's commercial. Have you seen it?
No, I haven't. You have to send it to me, Stu.
It is great. I mean, people are walking down and they go on a date, and they start to go on a date, and she looks really cute, and he got his hair all gelled up, and they're about ready to go in. They go, "What if you didn't have oil?" And then they back, everything starts dissolving and everything else. And then she shows up. She has no makeup on and her hair's horrible. He's looking like this. And the owner of the restaurant comes out and just throws a couple of bags of food at him and said, "Get out of here." You know, so the life with oil, Tracy and I would be just totally out of luck because we couldn't put our makeup on. I mean, it would be horrible with no oil. I mean, if you had no clothes, you had no makeup, you had nothing. I couldn't have a podcast, nothing without oil and gas.
Yeah.
No cheap t-shirts. Yeah.
That's right.
I love
It's
that
true.
t-shirt.
It is everywhere. I was debating with this guy from I get an endless stream of emails about people wanting me to promote news releases or stories, and some guy from the Renewable Fuels Association wanted me to promote Canada's new clean fuel standard, and he took a big swipe at the hydrocarbon industry in their news release, and I answered him back, said, "Well, that would be the last thing on earth I would be defending what you're suggesting." It turns out he's a fairly rational guy, but they're
Heidi, this is coming from the same guy that yelled out a politician, right? Sorry, Terry, I didn't mean to interrupt. Go ahead.
No, it's okay. But we had a good dialogue, and we came back and forth, and I kind of explained the position of the industry, kind of getting back to Heidi's point now. But it just you win these, you can win these battles one by one if you can actually sit down with somebody and have a rational conversation about it. And we swapped some good emails, but they come from a place that's just so bad that they don't. It's hard to win them back. And he had some stat. He's people have this mindset that it's really not that bad. Like, I don't know what you guys get so upset about. And it's like, well, look around you. Like, who defends the fact that the things are everywhere? If the hydrocarbon industry says that oil and gas is in everything, people go, shut up. You're just talking your book. You're just defending your own business, but it's true. Right. So, you do need people that are outside of the space. And again, as I always often say, like, I like Heidi's work because she's not involved. She's not employed by the oil patch. She just can see the value of it and speak the truth about it. So, and everybody does know.
And the frightening thing is, and the frightening thing about Heidi is she's got a cotton picking camera. And so, you and I are got to make sure we walk the line and be very good, because she's going to, put her artist. I believe I saw on LinkedIn, you're hiring somebody for a artist, Heidi's hiring out there. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah, I'm excited. It's I definitely am looking for like a young student that is able to kind of grow with the company, because there's a lot of little things that I want to start tackling, which would be like the YouTube channel and TikTok, because these are major platforms that most of young people consume their information from. So I want to tap into that space because I'm young enough. I can kind of, like, I'm on the cusp of being interesting, but not quite. Like, anyone kind of older than me, like that's hitting around 36, 37, 40, like they are not doing well on those platforms. So I want to hire someone younger that can, keep this going for a little while, and hopefully they can put their little young twist on it. So, and that's sad to say because I'm not even that old.
But it moves
I'm
fast.
sorry for the people listening on the podcast. I about lost a cookie right there because I was laughing so hard. You're over there saying that you're young, and I'm over here like Methuselah Moses and I are buddies, and then
It's
Terry.
I'm right behind you.
Yeah, well, that's the thing is like, I mean, I don't know if you've noticed on YouTube, but it's crazy. Like these influencers, how much money there's jobs now that are just influencers, YouTube influencers. Like it's a job, it's a career. And
Have you seen those ones where they dance and that they're great dancers and the guys are they dance really well? I'm hooked on those dang things on Instagram.
Yeah, that's
an
TikTok.
hour, and I'm sitting here like an idiot. I'm like a hamster sitting here just kind of like doing this.
I'm so proud of you. That's actually TikTok. It's connected to the Instagram accounts, but it's actually TikTok.
Oh, I know. I don't do no TikTok. I do the Instagram. Now, is it feeding it to TikTok?
Yeah, it's connected to TikTok. Like
so you are doing
linked.
TikTok. Yeah.
Holy smokes! I need to go shoot myself.
Rolling now. Most of them are TikTok videos. They're not.
Okay, I need to go shoot myself right now. Just eliminate myself. Sorry. I can't even tell you what I'm doing. I'm sitting there like a squirrel, just going, "Oh, this is cool. Oh, this is cool. Oh, I've never seen it. I've never seen it.
You got it.
I've never seen a husky do this kind of say your name, Bruno. A husky's talking on the damn thing.
Literally, you got roped in. You got roped into the TikTok world. That's literally TikTok.
No way.
Sucks you in. Yeah.
Okay, so how are we going to educate people in oil and gas doing TikTok? Because I can't even talk, let alone TikTok.
Oh, well.
I mean, you know what? That is something that we're going to be playing around with this year for sure in our in the company. So I'll keep you posted. I'll let you know how the progression goes.
I can tell you what not to do.
Well, maybe you'll be on one of the TikToks too. Like by the end of this, we'll get you doing something.
Go viral.
Like absolutely not.
I don't know. Maybe was it? What's that kind of dancing? Not pole dancing. Terry, you went there. It's the shuffle dancing. I guess I have to go learn shuffle dancing.
Okay. Yeah. Well, I'm looking forward to this collaboration. I'm a little nervous, but it's okay.
We can do that. Yeah, we could do that on the next Canadian oil gas thing, doing shuffle dancing.
Sure, we'll try it. You know what? It may not go up, but we'll try.
Well, I'll sit on the patio and I'll watch you give her out on the street. Yeah.
Oh no! You know what? I'm sitting there thinking there's got to be a way that we could have greener energy by having a way to not have a wind farm, but I'd love to have a device where I ride on my trainer. Why can't you generate power off of your bike when you're exercising? I mean, I'm a hamster anyway. I'd like to go ahead and run and, run in the wheel. Why can't you generate your own power?
Well, you can. I've seen experiments like that. It's just the actual power you generate is like actually really, really little. Like to power to turn a light bulb on, you have to really work pretty hard. So it's
well, I mean, maybe that's good for Stu. He can, just keep going.
Right.
He can set his light bulb for 2 seconds and then it stops. Yeah. He's got to keep going. You want to read
your book? Yeah, you have to keep the light on, which means you have to pedal harder.
I mean, I'm a little worried that Stu might have a heart attack, but it's okay. Like, we'll try. Again, we'll add him to TikTok. And then, I have a better idea, Stu. We'll get you doing that for TikTok.
There you go. Hang a donut in front of me on the treadmill. And, that'll work.
Well, we have Tim Hortons up here. We can certainly make that happen for you. We'll send you some Timbits.
So I think educating people is the best way to do it. And Heidi, your next documentary coming out, we're looking forward to it. I think you're going to just knock it out of the park. And you can have me. Have you seen those in the beginning of movies where they have some stupid little thing, and they have a movie, and at the beginning of it, so whoever makes the movie has a little stupid video. You know what I'm saying, right?
Yeah, I think so.
A little logo with a stupid thing, like a little kid walking with it. Yeah.
I see what you're saying. Yeah.
Yeah. So as a ASN producer, you could sit there and have me on a thing with a treadmill with a donut, as you're, saying, hey, this is for ASN Productions. Anything you see a fat man running on.
I like this. Yeah. Little hamster.
Okay, never mind. That was horrible. Okay, but now for next time, we're going to have to come up with. We've had Greg, who was a fantastic member of Parliament. He was absolutely a hoot. We love him. And then we had Terry, who we called Lord Terry, from Canadian Energy Now, and we got to think up something else next time. Who
That's
else can we
right.
make? Who else can we make their lives totally miserable by being on Team Canada Energy? Canada.
45 minutes. I don't think that we're miserable. I don't know. I'm gonna pump our tires here and not be negative and say I think we're pretty cool.
No,
But
no one got hurt
cheers do.
in filming. Yeah.
That's okay. I mean, it's fine. We'll let it slide.
Well, anyway, I
Well,
so appreciate you two and everything else that we're having fun with. And the key thing that we need to leave on this one is I'm going to go around the horn for the last one, but we love people, believe it or not. We believe everybody should have the lowest kilowatt per hour and the least amount of impact on the environment, and the most fun. Because my name is Stu Pidd. My last name's Pidd.
That's pretty harsh.
Anyway, I'm the Rodney Dangerfield of the energy market. Anyway, Heidi, I'm going to give you your last word, and then we're going to let Terry close us up.
Well, I mean, I think what it comes down to again is this, something that I'm always going to be passionate about. It's because it's my company mission is just to market oil and gas in a more positive light and really look at the solutions moving forward, because that's to me is the most important aspect for young people, because I don't want to be stuck with this problem. Like, I'm really nervous about what's going to happen in 15 years with policy changes. And I get really concerned about the connection in North America for young people, between their goods and their products, and also how we take for granted our way of life. And our way of living is just something that is so not a normal thing internationally. So it's definitely my mission. And a lot of people have asked me like, well, will you ever go out of this? And I'm like, no, because this topic will be with us for my end of my life. So being part of it and, moving it forward and having better communication for the industry, I think it's just the most important mission to have of all. Because again, like we've talked about internationally, this is about livelihoods. It's about people. It's about our supply chain. It's about animals. It's about farming, our environment. It's everything. So yeah, that's always going to be the case for me.
TikTok and
it's
Insta or Instagram, whatever it is.
Exactly. Yeah. All those things that young people love to have, and that's just going to be an aspect that they're going to have to. I'm actually very curious to see if there will be an awakening in, let's say 10 years, 15 years, when people my age are going to be the top leaders of the country. It's going to be fascinating to see what that ideology and those policies are going to look like. It's a little terrifying, but it's okay. I'll be here for the ride.
Yeah, maybe I will be, but I'll probably be in a wheelchair and comatose. And Terry, bring us in.
So I think that's what Heidi's working on is key. I think just so that people stop trying to kill the fuel supply while we have it. But I think this whole conversation, and even what you're saying about moving to greener energy, I think once the dust settles on trying to kill hydrocarbons, people are starting to think about their footprint a lot more than they ever have, which I think is a really good thing. People think about it now instead of just doing something on autopilot. Like, well, what is the footprint of doing this? Is this a wise thing to do? Is it good to buy new clothes every 6 months just because they're cheap? Is it should I buy a 500 horsepower car? Or should I get something that gets better mileage? Or should I the waste comes to mind more than it ever has. The recycling, things like that. Just it's all part of that mentality, which I think has to get better. And I think that even the people that produce hydrocarbons can understand this because they know what goes into making them. The people that want to clean up the environment can see that too. And the young people, at some point, young people are going to start realizing when the TikTokers, when they get into positions of power, they'll realize like how many data centers are required for all of these TikTok and YouTube videos. they're endless. The United States has something like 3 million data centers, and each one of them is a power hog, and they're just multiplying year by year. And so there's a footprint to all of this stuff. And so what do we want? We have to start making choices. If the whole world is going to live like this, we have to start making choices. So the focus that's being put on wiser use of resources and mining things too, even if you want to go all green, what's the cost of having electric vehicles everywhere?
Yep.
What does that mean in terms of new mines, in terms of and where are they going to be, and what's it going to do to the environment and endangered species? People are thinking about these things a lot more. It's part of the general discussion, which is a good thing. So there will be good that comes out of this once we kind of come to some sort of a equilibrium where we stop trying to kill each other and start pulling in the same direction. And maybe that'll be Heidi's generation. That's what ASN will do.
Well, what we ought to have is Heidi, since she's the CEO of ASN Production, we got to get her groomed up to start running for prime minister.
Oh God, that would be terrifying.
Hey, one last word of humor, and that is Austria. Austria, you just got to love. I found out that I was writing an article, and sure enough, Austria in 1978, they built a nuclear reactor, never brought it on. In 2011, they were leading the world in green energy. In 2009, they brought that nuclear reactor online using solar power. The reactor is still shut down. It's only used for training. It's never provided power to the community except by a solar panel that is in there. The reactor's not generating power.
Ouch.
Ouch
Pretty
is right.
expensive training
Wow, that's
facility.
a really expensive mistake.
Yeah, ruh-roh. So anyway, hey, thank you guys again. And let's see if we can find another Austria out there to talk about next week.
Thanks,
Sounds good.
Stu.
Thanks, Stu.